Hello again, friends. How are we doing? Ah, what a time to be alive. What a time to share special days with your friends, with your best bros. And today I would like to talk about minimalism in regarding to your friendships. So, something you gotta be careful of in this world is having too large of a friend circle. And, there's a pretty easy gauge for how to know who you should interact with and to know who you shouldn't interact with, right? So anyone that has a negative impact on your life, even tangentially, even if they're associated with people that might have a negative impact on your life, is generally speaking a good enough reason to not associate. I didn't use suicide. Is not a good enough, that's a good enough reason to not associate with them. So if for whatever reason, someone does not have your best interest at heart at all time, you probably don't want them in your life. At least not realistically, because they're probably not good for you. And so many people I know will associate with people that objectively are not that good for them for no real reason. Like, you don't have to associate or give people your time if you don't trust them to be, looking out for your best interest. And I've never really understood why some people do. Like, having a small selection of really good friends is universally going to be better than having a wide array of friends, but they all don't have your best interest, or they might be rats, or, they might be a bad OPSEC. Like, operational security, too, in whatever you do is pretty important, just because if you're even somewhat known on the internet, there's someone that's going to want to go after you. So, like recently I just did a friends list cleanup just because, I want to reduce the amount of people I talk to at any given point in time. And when you do that, when you have a tight, clean amount of friends, you develop long-lasting friendships and big bonds with the big bros. For instance, most of the people on my friends list I've known for either close to a decade or over a decade. And some people, I've known one person on my friends list since I was 10 years old, so 25 years, and we still talk about life, and we both ended up being computer programmers, and he's a really good friend of mine. He doesn't really play video games anymore. He graduated to adulthood. He doesn't have a family or anything like that because we're both, beta nerds, but at the same time, having friends like that, or being able to one of my friends convinced me to buy 7 Days to Die yesterday, and I put up a game, and the password for the game was the N-word. And, one of my other friends managed to guess the password and get into the game before I could even tell him it, because we were doing something when he messaged me because he wanted to come play, right? And so, having people that know you that well, that can guess the password to your video game without you telling them it. And yeah, I know it's me, it's not the hardest thing to guess, but it's just things like that, where you're playing a video game and then one of your friends guesses that you used N-word as the password for the video game and are able to join it and just come play with the boys, It's things like that that really make life worth living, If there's one counter to the black pill, it's having the boys around, right? So you might not have much in this world or might not be able to make much in this world, but at least you've got, the boys. But you need to establish those links with the boys first, and you need to get the people that aren't the boys in your life. Like that same friend I was playing with that convinced me to play 7 Days to Die yesterday. Great game, by the way. Lots of fun with the boys. Killing some zomboys. But one of the things is, that friend of mine, he's associated with someone for 5 years that is objectively just not good for him, and has never been really good for him. The person I'm discussing is really obese. He's, Dunning-Kruger personified, if you would. Nothing is ever his fault. It's impossible for him to make a mistake, He, even if he's not prepared, he was prepared, He's just one of those people, Dunning-Kruger personified types, right? And he's fat, and he's dumb. He's just not someone you want to have in your life. He's not providing my friend who is, the guy I was playing with is a rich car dealer and, a pretty big shot in the real world, pretty big shot online, really fun to hang out with. He's from Texas. So the dynamic yesterday was a French Canadian, a Jew, and a Texan all walk into a, video game, right? But, it's hilarious seeing these cross-cultural interactions too. Diversity isn't our strength, but it certainly makes for some interesting dialogue when, you've got Tabernacles mixing with Texans. It's a good time. But yeah, so this friend, my friend finally managed to like start working on friendship minimalism and getting him out of his life, right? And the quality of the relationships you keep benefit you. The things you take into your life either benefit or hurt you. Like there is no in between in the world. Just like how everything is so binary in this day and age, right? Because of politics is the new religion. You can't associate with people that don't share your political views. Like even family, you just need to get rid of them. You can't really have that in your life where you have people that have different moral sense and moral values. Like there are people in this world that think murdering children is all right. There are people in this world that want to propagandize LGBT plus blah 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 to children. Despite the fact that being part of the coalition is more detriment to your life than having cancer. Like being gay is basically a death sentence. Like let's be clear here, that's what we're talking about. And people are trying, and it's a family lineage death sentence as well, but there are people that are still, despite all of that, trying to force it on children. And you can't really have that in your life. And people that even are adjacent to that are just not people you can associate with, even if they're family. Like if they don't directly benefit you, there's no reason to keep them around. In our fully atomized individualistic society, it's beyond pointless at this point to try and associate with people or make things better, right? The only way going forward really is simply to just get yours, get away from people, and just only hang out with people that you can trust. And it sucks that it's like that. It sucks we've managed to devolve into having basically no sort of political hegemony, no sort of intellectual bonds that we can share with each other. But at the same time, that's just the reality of the situation, right? Human beings, by their very nature, are simply trash in modern day. Maybe they've always been trash. I don't know. I've only been alive 35 years. I can't look that far into the past to see that maybe this horrible state of affairs is how everything's always been, and the internet just brought the mask off. I don't know if that's true or not. I'd like to think it's not. Just something idealistic in me doesn't believe that's true. But at the same time, I really don't know. All I can do is just hope that wasn't true. And yeah, so look at your relationships and really evaluate, does this person bring a benefit to my life? Because if not, that person is a net drain on your life. There is no in between. And don't try and debate with people. Don't try and discuss things. Don't try and convert people with your political opinions, because it's just not going to work. No one's interested in that anymore. We're beyond discussion, and we're just waiting until the shooting starts, honestly, at this point, as far as politics in the world goes. But beyond that, beyond trying to force yourself to interact with other people that aren't good for you, make sure that you just don't give people that aren't worth your time your time. Sure, it's fun to meme once with someone, especially if they're out there, but if you don't believe they're worth discussing, or they're not smart enough to even have a discussion with you, then you don't really need them either. And that's not to say all of your friends need to be as intelligent as you or share your intellect or thirst for knowledge, but they definitely have to not be negatively contributing to your life. They have to offer you something. Look at it all like a relationship in essence. What can this person do for me, and what can I do for this person? Is this mutually beneficial? I have such a strong list of friends, at the core of it. A good 10 people that really, every time I get a message from one of them, I want to read it, right? And I know a lot of people that get 30 DMs when they wake up in the day, right? And how many of those do they really want to read? How many of those are interesting? That's time you're not getting back that you're wasting interacting with that, where you could be grinding something or wasting your life in some other mundane way, right? And heck, some of the messages they might get or might receive could be even negative or, directly, disproportionately impacting their life, right? So, everything you take, every message you read, everyone you talk to, every movie you watch has the potential to negatively impact your life, ruin your day, And when you're playing with chips like that, I know, ruin my day, that's a big loss. Well, it actually is. How many days are you going to get in your life? And how many days do you really feel like wasting on, absolute garbage? Because it shouldn't be that many. Your goal should not be, okay, well, I can waste time. your goal should be trying to improve your life, trying to improve your stance, and trying to have fun with your life. And using however many few precious days you've got optimally. And that's a lot of what minimalism is. And I don't know, most people have this consumer mindset about their friends where, oh, I've got X amount of people, and the volume of friendship doesn't matter. And that's something that a lot of people early in life I think get wrong and lie, especially if you're when I was a kid at least it was like that. I don't know if it's still like that, but the volume of friends or how popular you are as a person seems to have a big impact on a lot of people's self-esteem. And it really shouldn't be that way. Your life should be, at least somewhat focused on trying to remove bloat, especially bloated people, from existence. And truth be told, there are not that many people in the world worth associating with. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. Most people are blanket NPCs that don't have an original or interesting thought in their brains. And, it is what it is. But you don't need to associate with those people if you're somehow enlightened. Just having a few good people in your life is better than any sort of relationship, any sort of woman, anything. At the end of the day, they're going to be what's there for you. And whatever you do, don't become a bad person or someone that's going to negatively impact your friends. Support them, be there for them, and have the relationship be mutually beneficial. And, that you'll cultivate good relationships around you and good values around you and people that share your good values. If you don't do that, if you're willing to suffer the consequences of being a failure at that, then you can go join the NPC cattle horde with 500 Discord friends that message you once a year just to link you some sort of spam email or fish they got caught with. No one wants that. But that seems to be the goal of most normies, and I just personally don't understand it, but it is what it is, right? Goy's gonna goy, as they say. But yeah, at least you personally can make decisions about who you're willing to incorporate in your life, and you don't have to be nasty about removing people. Just simply, they're gone, and then cut it down and only have people that hopefully are going to benefit you in some way, shape, or form. And be careful of anyone that's even tangentially related to someone that could be not good for you, because at the end of the day, if they keep bad company, they're obviously not living in a way that's in tune with your moral values or your sense of progression in the world. And that's not to say that you absolutely cannot convince them to try and make things somewhat better or try and change their ways or the people they associate with, but I just wouldn't count on it. And if things aren't looking like they're going to go good for you in that regard with that type of person, then you're going to have to make an executive decision at some point. And getting into that gets into drama, gets into all of these other things where it's really not worth it at the end of the day compared to just simply getting better quality friends, And it's tough to say, and it's really cutthroat to evaluate people like that, but you kind of have to evaluate everyone like that, because at the end of the day, it's your time you're wasting, You really don't want to be in the business of wasting it or throwing it away, or potentially causing yourself troubles or harm like that. And at the end of the day, it's your decision, but, you have to stop being afraid of being lonely, and I think a lot of people have this innate fear, being lonely is fine. I've gone untold amount of hours without interacting with human beings sometimes. It is what it is. At some points in life, you're going to have to accept that at the end of the day, you will spend some time alone, and that's a worthwhile trade-off to not associate with people that could be harming you. And yeah, it's cruel. Yeah, it's not good, but at the end of the day, you don't really have a choice if you want to make the world a better place and your life a better place. It is what it is. And another thing about keeping up with friendship minimalism is, this doesn't preclude to whatever games you play. If you're with friends, any game can be really fun. Just full stop. Any sort of goy slop product, any sort of indie development game, is going to be something that you can at least make enjoyable with the boys. And if you can't, then they're probably not worth hanging out with. Sorry to say, that's just legitimately how it is. Can I, yeah, whatever. so if you're going to analyze your friends list, just go down it and make sure that everyone is still in tune with your values and still worth hanging out with. You know, it's a cruel way of looking at the world and looking at people, but you know, at the end of the day, you don't really have a choice if you want to be in a better position and be in a good spot. Let's see, do I have any? No, I don't have the next one. Whatever. But yeah, but this has gone on long enough. I wish you guys all the best, and you know, analyze your friends list, and maybe it's time for you to cut some of the fat, work towards having a better friends list.